Welcome everyone to our master class for today. We are super excited about our topic today and our guest speaker.
So topic for today, just to kind of intro that, this is is it our fourth, fifth, or sixth master
Maybe
class?
The sixth. I feel like the sixth.
Maybe it's the sixth master class. And we're really excited for this one. Title of this one is How to Avoid Sabotaging Your Own Success, which is a really great topic because I feel like a lot of business owners do experience this, if not every business owner at some point. And so briefly, our speaker for today is Royce. We're so happy to have him. He has over 25 years of experience working in high-tech industries. And prior to joining his wife, Tamara, at My Amazing Maid. And so Royce was the vice president of marketing for Synapse Wireless. Is that how you pronounce it?
Mm-hmm.
Synapse. Mm-hmm. And the creator of an operating system for companies producing products for the Internet of Things marketplace. And then before that, Royce, it looks like you spent 12 years working for a large regional cable TV and broadband provider. So that is awesome. We're excited to have you share with us your experience, your expertise, and your knowledge. So
yeah. And when I first talked to Royce, this was, pre-COVID in January, we said, Royce, we need to get you on one of our master class because he is just, if you don't know him, he is just a vast resource of knowing knowledge and just knowing how to do things the right way because he's figured it out. And so, we were like, we want to talk, especially he's really good with like systems and knowing how to just make everything in your business run efficiently and how to get the right tools in place to best manage your employees and to best manage your customers and your workflow and all of that. And then when we reconnected just a little bit ago, say, we got to get you on, COVID's here. But I think that now more than ever, we need to talk about this because, as a business owner, this is obviously, we're all in uncharted waters and we're all trying to figure out, what's going to happen next. We're trying to figure out, where are we now from what's happened and where do we need to go and what do we need to get in place to succeed. And so really excited to talk to Royce today because he has all this knowledge before, and then he's been through what we're all going through now, and his company is, surviving, and they're doing really well, even with the current situation. So just excited to talk to you about what's working and just get all of your thoughts about, what kind of advice you can give to others who are, in a similar place you are, or maybe starting out, or, just kind of to share your vast knowledge. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I really appreciate the invitation. We'll have to get together another time and talk about systems, okay? Because we'll rush through the systems, but we'll do that another time.
Okay, we'll get you back on.
So a couple of things. One is, we tend to in the service industries, we tend to have a handful of employees. Maybe you've got 6 or 8 or 10 or 20. If you're a pretty large service business, and you may have a few thousand customers, okay? So the reason I think that people look at me and say, oh, you've got it all figured out, because you can do things when you have 1,000 customers and you can cheat and you can work around systems and you can create hacks and do things, and you can just by just your brute, strength, force things to happen. But in the cable TV business, we had hundreds of thousands of customers. And in order to work with hundreds of thousands of customers, you have to have systems and you have to do things the same way and you have to communicate certain ways. And so when you were brought up that way and then you take that and you apply it to a small business, the problem is most people never had that training, okay? So, in this particular world, that training was brutal. It definitely made an impact. So when I look at things, I may look at them a little bit differently because I'm looking at them through the eyes of, okay, so how would I do this with 100,000 people and not 1,000 people? So that's sort of why I became sort of a systems type person.
Yeah, I can totally see that. because most people in a similar industry, they maybe just specialized, maybe their family had the business in the trades or something like that, but they haven't always had that background in big corporate dealing with hundreds of thousands, so they're not always thinking that way. They're just thinking, I know how to do my trade. So that is an interesting twist on it, to have that perspective.
And also, like in the residential cleaning business, in the maid business, if you have 300 customers, you've arrived. I mean, if you have 300 recurring customers, you are doing $1 million a year, and that's sort of like nirvana, right, in our space. So it doesn't take many, right? And so you can, if you don't have good systems, you can still do it, but you will work a lot of hours. And if you'll create good systems, and it's like I tell people, it's like when you go out and buy software, and you buy some field operating software, you are going to probably have to bend your business to work with that software. Don't try to do it the other way, because if you try to hack that software so it works for you in your business, you'll miss out on a lot of the things that have been developed to make your business run easily. And I see people spend extra hours of time doing tasks that the software would do on its own if you had just bent your business just a little bit. So if you don't like the way that software makes you operate your business, then go find some different software, okay? And then at some point in time, you may have to say, I found sort of a compromise, and I'm just gonna have to tweak a few things. That's the perfect software for you. So so I tell people all the time is, do not create workarounds. Workarounds just end up being a lot of work for you. And I know you guys understand this, because in the call center world, and that's really what drove a lot of the stuff I'm talking about. In the call center world, you need to do things the same way every time. And that way you can guarantee success in good quality. So that's sort of, I mean, we come from the same area, really. You guys are just doing it with a lot more companies.
Yeah, I have actually not heard that very often. I love hearing that. It's kind of refreshing me, because of hearing it that way, that you need to mold a little bit to the tools. Because usually I think as business owners, we always are thinking, well, I need to make this tool work for me, which they can, and you obviously need to use what they have to work for you, but being flexible and being willing to mold your processes and your systems and your normal way of things to best utilize the tools that you've chosen to have. I think that's actually really smart. You don't hear that very often.
It's a really good point, because I already have like my mind turning on what systems are we using maybe that we're like, oh, but I don't like that part of it, so let's make a workaround. And really, if we were to change maybe our mindset or something that we were doing, we might be able to kind of use all the features of that one system that we're trying to get another system to do the way we want it to. So we have two systems,
Yeah. Now
and that's what happens. That's exactly what happens. So you end up creating all this extra work when, in fact, now you can't sacrifice your business model. Okay. I mean, so, there are things that are sort of sacrosanct in this. You can't sacrifice too much. But at the end of the day, sometimes you have to look at it and say, am I willing to go to battle over this one little task that I'm refusing to let the software do for me? And you might be able, you might be willing to do that. If you do, you probably have the wrong software. But normally in a small business, because we're all going to buy software, right? We probably aren't going to have our own written. We don't have software developers or software developer budgets. So you do have to. It's one of the reasons you have to find good software partners who are using best practices. And the other thing I always tell people too is, I know a little about the maid business, the cleaning business. I don't know about all the different maid businesses, but here's the software that's been written for maid businesses, and just so happens they talk to a lot more people than I do. So chances are they are working with best practices, so maybe I need to open my eyes a little bit and see what they're saying I should do. It's okay to question it. They make mistakes, I mean, all you have to do is call some of my providers. They'll let you know that I've communicated those to them. Unwelcome or not, I didn't care. But that's the way to look at it is, they, because you look at it the other way. They can't sell their product if it's not good. People just aren't going to buy it. So so I always just say, keep your eyes open. And again, if the product's not doing what you need it to do for your business, then go look at something different. But they're all going to be a compromise to a certain degree.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I was listening to a podcast this morning. This is a little bit of a tangent, but I feel like it's related. They were interviewing this Yale professor, and he was like teaching emotional intelligence, and so he was getting a lot of kickback from the other professors saying like, that's just garbage, like nobody needs that or whatever. And he said, you take any of these kids and you put them in a business setting, if they don't know how to be flexible, if they don't know how to like have these skill sets to be able to actually like can have the smarts, but if they don't have like the other flexibility. I mean, we've been talking about that and other skill sets needed to function in a workplace, like they're not going to succeed. And so, and how I'm relating that is, you can have this intelligent software, you can have these intelligent processes within your own business, but if you don't have the flexibility to make everything work together, then you're going to be sabotaging your own success. That's such an important part to being a business. You need to have your standards, but then you also need to have reasonable flexibility to make everything work.
That's right. So that's a good segue into talking about sabotaging your own success. So I'm going to pop up a PowerPoint here, and let's see if I can make this work right.
Your desktop looks like mine. So 10 times worse.
And hang on, of course, I wasn't ready, so I've got to go to the first screen here. So, all right. Oops, one more. All right.
Make the PowerPoint work for you, Royce. Make it work for you.
That's right. Okay. All right. So, so I titled this close, how not to sabotage your business, right? So the first thing I want to talk about, which is sort of a negative, speech. Let me tell you how not to do something. But the first thing I want to tell you about is something that was told to me by my mentor, and they really preached it a lot, which was you must prepare yourself to be successful. Okay. You hear all the time people saying, oh, they're like an overnight success, or look at how quickly their business grew and all those kind of things. And I believe in overnight successes. I've seen enough of them. But if they did not prepare themselves to continue that success, it's pretty short-lived. I mean, you probably can list different businesses that you've seen that started out great and they just ended up just sort of killing themselves, because they didn't have the processes and stuff in place. So, so I always, I like to start with this is like, you got to prepare yourself to be successful. And the way to do that is you got to recognize that success is a long-term process. It's a long road. It's a journey. Okay. There are going to be dips and valleys and peaks and, all along that journey. And I always try to, when I was writing this, I was just sort of envisioning, I wonder what Warren Buffett, who's just extremely wealthy, been a great investor. I wonder if you could look at his sort of the graph, to show you how well he did year by year, how many valleys there were in there, and then a few peaks. And none of it really mattered, because at the end of the day, the number on the right side of the graph is way much larger than the number that he started with. So I like to tell people, you got to recognize that success is a long-term process. And the other thing I would say about that too is your definition of success may be different than my definition of success probably is going to be, and that's probably going to change. So what I define as successful today, and if you want to go back to the cable TV business, I always wanted to be a vice president on the executive team of a publicly traded company. I did it. Okay. So I would say, okay, you were successful. As soon as I had an opportunity to not do it, I left. Okay. Of course, somebody asked me to leave, but that's different. We sold the company. But the thing is, I didn't want to go back into that. So my definition of success changed. And even here, and I think a lot of people are probably battling with this inside right now is, do I want to run my business the same way, today that I was doing in January? Has the whole lockdown and, walking through this whole process, has it changed me in what I think success means to me? I know it has for us. So I think that's okay. Recognize that it's a long-term process, but it's also going to change. The goalposts are going to move. The next thing is, and of course, here I am, I'm a tech guy, but you have to get comfortable with technology if you're going to prepare yourself to be successful. Too many times I hear people say, "Oh, I can't do that. Okay, I don't know how to do that. I can't do that." Well, what's funny about it when you get to be, in your 50s? I heard that same stuff 30 years ago. People couldn't do it. You've had 30 years, okay? So it really is. I'm not going to spend the time to learn how to do that or be comfortable with it. There's plenty of people who can help, but you're going to have to be comfortable with technology. When I look at the service businesses, I don't see anything that can't be better with a little bit of tech. Okay. So can I keep all of my work orders on paper? Sure, I can. I can do that. But is it better that my technicians can access those work orders over their phone? And if I need to make a change to the schedule on the fly, I can do that and they get it? Yeah, that's a lot better. It's not a little bit, it's a lot better. So technology, you're gonna deal with technology. If this is the start of your career, I promise you it's going to change a million times and you're going to deal with it your whole career. If you're, got 15 more years left in your career, you got plenty of time. Go ahead and try to embrace technology.
Right. Royce, you kind of already answered this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So, you're a business owner, you're not very tech savvy. Can you just hire someone, who is more tech savvy and cover you? And what I take from what you just said, but correct me if I got this wrong, is maybe you can have, maybe you don't need to know all the ins and outs of the technology and all the systems you set up. You can have someone kind of help you get that going, get that set up, but you need to at least have some basic understanding of it, because you need to be using those tools and systems yourself in order to, do your own job in your company, and then also to help everyone else within your organization succeed and to make everything run. You've got to have at least a basic understanding of how these different tools work. I don't know. How would you answer that question? I'm curious.
Well, I always tell my kids this funny story. It's like when you take introduction to computers today, you learn how to use Word and how to use Excel and things like that. You actually learn a software package, right? And I don't even know when they teach that now, probably third grade. I mean, it's like, and so,
Right.
yeah, right. They teach it on your iPad when you're at the restaurant, when you're 6 months. But back in the day, when you took intro to computers, we learned how to program. Okay. So you learned how to write in BASIC. Is it important to know how to write in BASIC? No, not at all. But it is important to know how to use a software package like Word. Okay. So you're dead on, Michelle. It's like, you don't have to know how to set it up. And a lot of software companies will help you set it up. Or maybe you have somebody who's more tech savvy in your organization, or somebody you can contract with that will help you set it up. But you do need to know how to use it. Okay. And here's something, if you need to know where you can find some people. So the field service management software we have, I love. Okay. I mean, it's a great piece of software. The reporting is limited. Okay. But I can download that report into an Excel spreadsheet. And you guys, I bet you use Excel spreadsheets every day, to slice and dice your data. But it's a lot of data. So I have found a guy on Fiverr that lives in Pakistan who I can pay $20 and he can make my spreadsheets hum. So he can, like, one of the things I'm trying to do now is to be able to get the information out of the system that will tell me how much revenue each cleaner did that day. Okay. I can get that revenue number, and we work in teams, and I can see all of my team. Okay. So I can see there were 2 people that did $450 worth of revenue, for instance. But now I can press a button and he's created some macros that I didn't know how to do. And it'll break it all down, so, $20. Okay. So, again, I don't have to know how to do that, but I'm comfortable enough to know that I can ask somebody and they can help me get there. And now all I have to do is press a button. So that's not bad.
Well, and you know enough that you can find someone who can do that for you. I mean, you have to have basic understanding of the capability within different tools, even if it's just Excel,
Well,
to
to
know I
explain
can get that
you want
done.
out of that report.
Or be able to log in to Facebook and ask somebody in a group, hey, does anybody know how to do this? I mean, things have gotten a lot easier because you can ask for information and people just give it to you. Especially, I mean, that's one of the beauties of the service industries is I am never going to compete with somebody in San Diego, California, ever. We're never going to compete. So do you have a question that I can answer? Sure, let me answer it, And it's sort of like I believe in the whole internet. It's all going to come back to me at some point in time. I'm going to ask a question and somebody in Idaho is going to say, oh, this is how you do that. And, they just tell you. So, there's power in the hive, right? I mean, there's all this knowledge in the hive and we've got to use that. So I understand people aren't super comfortable with technology. Everybody's not comfortable with it, but I bet you're on Facebook. And if you're on Facebook, you can ask the question and I'll bet you somebody helps you. And if they don't, then flip over to YouTube and somebody has done a video on how to do it. Mm-hmm. So it's the access that we have to knowledge today is just crazy, which takes us to our next thing is always be learning. Okay. If you're going to be successful, you need to always be learning. And I used to read books a lot. And I'll tell you, I don't read a lot of books anymore because I typically read online. And I read a lot online because I want to know like current stuff, like what's it about now. I don't read a lot about the theory anymore. I want to know what can we do right now. And you mentioned podcasts and podcasts. My kids are into podcasts, and it's like, and they'll tell me what they're learning and everything, and I'm like, man, you're basically taking a college class that's free that you can take anytime you want to, and learn all of this information. And it's just incredible, and it's specific to what you want to know. So there's a lot of stuff out there. So always be learning because that is a super key to help and prepare yourself to be successful. And then
sorry to cut you out there. So I was listening to something. I don't think it was a podcast. It was a Facebook Live on something, a masterclass, and they had a master Googler on there, and they're like, yeah, that's a real thing. Like, to know how to Google to find the information you need. But I'm just curious because you mentioned that you like going online. What do you read? How do you find things? Like, how do you find what you want to read? How do you stay current? Are there certain things you just follow and always read what they produce, or do you search for things? Curious.
So number one, I did not realize there's such a term as a master Googler.
Right? I'm like, man, I want that degree.
But in 1990, I was in sales and I sold information. I sold books. Okay. I sold them to accountants and lawyers. So when you would walk into an office and you saw all those books that were up there, I sold those. And we made the transition to online this is before the internet. And so you had to use all of this logic and everything. I'm just getting around to, I bet you I'm a master Googler too. I just need to figure out what you have to do to qualify for that, because I can use all that Boolean logic and all that to make that work. So anyway, so I get most of everything I do. I start at Twitter. Okay. So now Twitter is a crazy place. If you've ever been on Twitter, it's worse than Facebook, where you can sort of mold and what I read on Twitter and what you read on Twitter are opposite things, no matter who you are, right? Because over time you follow the people who you want to know information about. So, for instance, I follow Mark Cuban. Okay, Mark Cuban follows whoever he follows, and he retweets stuff, and I read those types of articles. So my Twitter is almost exclusively like news and things that I'm interested in. It's less about opinion and what's going on in the world, although I get a lot of that through the news part. But Twitter is a great place to start, and search for some people who because they're probably, they're gonna, put things out there that that you're familiar with and things. And I've met some people on Twitter that there's no way I would have ever met. I mean, like successful CEOs that, that I can private message, direct message, and they'll answer me. So it's very interesting what Twitter does for you. So, it's almost, if I would, Twitter to me is like just a feed of just things for me to read. And then I always go through I belong to a lot of Facebook groups now. If you went on my Facebook, it used to be, all about people I went to high school with. Now my Facebook group is feed is almost all cleaning groups and or other service industries. And I just go through and like say, I usually try to answer people's questions, so there's a lot of people I go to a trade show and they'll say, oh, I've never, I've always wanted to meet you because I answered some question for them, a while back, and it's always fun to meet folks like that. And again, we don't compete with most of the people that you're going to meet on there. So if you can help somebody out, I promise you the hive will give back, so that's a good way to do it.
I love that. Those are some really good tips. How do you not get sucked in? Like, do you set a time frame of I'll do it this much, or how do you not get sucked in? You get on all day.
First of all, yeah, you go down the rabbit hole, and I'm bad about that, right? So I start off searching, I see an article about, let's say some new computer, and the next thing I'm reading about, how somebody has developed something, to create a new vaccine. It's like you just go all over the place. But I'm a big believer in having a well-rounded knowledge base. I believe knowing something about a lot of things is important because it helps you to make good decisions. Because, and again, I don't know all this stuff, but I can probably go figure something out. I can go find somebody who I can ask a question to. And so I do. Now the other advantage I have is, my kids are gone, out of the house and married and stuff. So I have time, so I can sit around, and I don't watch much TV anymore. So I can just sit around and read.
So that is a good way to use your time. That's cool. Yeah, no, I think that's great. And no matter what industry you're in, there are thought leaders that are on Twitter. There are Facebook groups about your industry. So go find them. And I agree, learning both from the industry experts and then also people that are in the trenches with you and what's working for them. Facebook and Twitter are both great ways to get all that. I love that.
Well, we see a lot of home service professionals on YouTube, tons.
Right.
I mean, there's no excuse to not go on YouTube to try to find some information. You can find almost anything there.
Gosh, I even have stuff on YouTube. So, I experiment with it. I'm not a very prolific creator, but I like it. And like I said, there's in the cleaning industry, in the house cleaning industry, Angela Brown has tons of stuff, and she's a very interesting person to meet. I don't know if you've ever talked to her.
I haven't.
But she's awesome. She will give you 10 times more than you'll ever give her back. And she will teach you how to do this business. She will teach you all about it, and it's free. And if you would like to know more, you can pay her and take her courses. But I mean, she's just an incredible source of information, and she's done a whole lot of stuff about what she does, and how she got into this. And she puts up a YouTube video every day. Okay, you guys, that's hard. That's very hard. But she has a whole team now where they edit, and she didn't know anything about YouTube. So, but there's a lot of folks like that, that's out there. So lastly on this slide is create a plan and work to the plan. Okay, and a plan that's written down is better than a plan that's in your head, but a plan that's in your head is better than not having a plan. Okay, so you'll hear me talk a lot about good enough. Okay, a lot of people try to do things perfectly or they won't do it, but good enough will get you started, right? Now, I don't want to go clean somebody's house good enough, but as far as like if it's the difference between starting or not starting, then definitely good enough is probably good enough. So create a plan and work to the plan, and if you'll just do those 4 things there, you're definitely on track to be successful in whatever you decide to do. But just to understand, you have to prepare yourself to be successful, so that when that good idea or that big customer or whatever rolls along your way, that you can do it, that you're ready to go. So let's talk about how not to sabotage your business. And I just clicked on something I shouldn't have clicked on. I think my map's going to pop up here. Let's see. There we go. I stopped it. So the first thing is stop doing everything yourself. Okay. This is one of the biggest things you see with people who are growing a business, is they just can't let anything go.
Right.
Okay. And you know what? You can do this. You can be successful. And like I say, success is whatever you define success is to you. But it's not the easiest way to do it. Okay. The problem is, and everybody has the same issue, is people are not going to do it like you do it. And you're going to come back and say, it takes me longer to teach somebody how to do it than to just do it myself. Okay. You've got to get beyond those 2 things, because you're going to want to take vacation. Eventually you're going to want to be able to not work 60 hours a week. You may enjoy it today. Maybe the best thing you got going on. You may do it forever that way, but you probably won't. At some point in time, you're going to be successful and you're going to say, man, I'd like to have some free time to go do all these other things. And you're not going to be able to do it if you're doing everything yourself. So I get back to, everything doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. You can always modify something. I always use this software analogy, but it's okay to start at 1.2, version 1.2, and then come back and change it to version 1.3. Okay. So start off, find out where you're at, and then improve on that. Delegation is a skill. And you know what? Like every other skill, you did not walk out of the your school knowing how to do it. Probably you've had to develop it and practice it and learn how to do it and read about it over time. So you probably are not going to be the best delegator at the beginning, and that goes back to, it takes you longer to tell somebody how to do it than to do it. But you're going to have to learn how to delegate. Okay, and that's an important skill. And I would just tell you on this, focus on the result and not how they did it, unless it's super important on how you do it, right? But usually it's not. So if you tell somebody, I need you to, go stack these boxes over there, just focus on the fact that the boxes got stacked, and make sure it was done in a safe manner. They don't have to stack them exactly like you stacked them, right? Next is it's how you build trust in your employees. If you're going to have an organization that gets to be beyond you, people have to trust you, because they have to also take ownership in the organization. So, or the business, and you build that trust by allowing other people to have ownership and to do things as well. And then that leads into the next one, which is you need to grow your employees for a lot of reasons. Number one, I don't know anyone, you probably can take your worst employee and they're still going to be somebody that would like to grow. Okay. And so you've got to allow them to grow. You got to give them opportunities. And if you can grow your employees, a few of them are going to blossom and just become awesome. And they're going to actually, help you run the business one day. And then lastly, you can always hire experts to do things too. So just like, in the trades, everything that we do for the most part, unless it's a special license, somebody else could do it. Somebody else could clean their house. Somebody could clean their windows. Somebody could pressure wash their sidewalk a lot cheaper than you're going to do it. But they made a decision to hire an expert. And maybe we should too. We should probably drink a little bit of our own Kool-Aid there and not think that we have to do everything, that sometimes paying somebody a little bit of money is cheaper in the long run. We preach that every day. So we need to talk, preach it to ourselves a little bit. So stop doing everything yourself.
All of that was gold, Royce. Like all of that. I mean, that's so much what we live every day. Because I mean, I know even with our own business, we like 100% get how much trust it takes and delegation skills to even hire a service like ours, because no one can answer your phone better than you usually. Nobody can like answer the questions as you can. So it takes a huge amount of trust to be able to delegate that. But when companies finally can, they're just amazed by how much more productive they can be, often how their team can be doing so much better, and just by not getting distracted throughout the day, and how much more productive. So we see this happening all the time, but I completely understand how hard it is to let go. But then once you finally start to, you can realize, wow, this actually has opened up a lot more doors for me.
Yeah. And the thing is, you just have to get beyond, maybe they can't answer the phone as well as you, but they can answer the phone better than you when you're eating dinner at night.
Exactly. Or better than missing that call. And maybe we have all the answers, but we're not going to have, the cleaning noise in the background, and you're not going to be distracted or be rude to the person you're with because you got to get your phone and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I do when I've done sales in the past, a lot of clients that come to us and you can already tell by processes that are set up and how successful they already are in their business. Some are kind of struggling and some are doing really, really well. The ones that are doing really, really well tend to not have a hard time getting onboarded.
It's true.
Yeah.
They don't have as many questions.
They're
not
flexible.
They're flexible.
Right.
They're not as apprehensive. They do understand that we're not in their office to know absolutely everything. But the ones that are struggling a little bit do have more questions. They're a lot more, they're not as trusting. They really don't think that we can answer the phones as well as they can. And it's a little bit more of a struggle because they obviously are standing in their own way in a sense. So it's a little bit of a battle to try to convince them, like, hey, look, let's try this out, let go a little bit, let go a lot actually, and let us do what we do best. And so you can actually see that in just the sign up process and the onboarding, the difference in just from business owner to business owner who has this really strong business mindset and isn't standing in their own way. And eventually they all end up getting there, but some of them, are coming to us and they're a little bit ahead of the game, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
We're Jill's office customers and clients, and we have been now for a few years. And I mean, I'm telling you how to do things, but we went through the same decision process. And this is the one thing I would tell people and I do tell people when you're going to hire somebody, whether that's in-house or like Jill's, you have to give them the opportunity to get better, okay? Because they have to learn your business as well. And so when we first started with Jill's, we actually gave you a lot of our calls, because if you didn't get that repetition, you can't get better. You won't know what to tell me that we didn't provide you. I have to see what kind of questions you're not able to answer so I can go give you more information to handle that. So it makes it even harder, because now I'm going to say, first of all, you have to trust me, but secondly, you got to give me more than you normally would, because if I don't, all you're going to do is you're just going to make it harder for me if you don't give me enough repetition that I can actually pick it up and learn it. I think I use some sports analogies. I'm terrible like that, but I always think, a baseball analogy. So I'm an Atlanta Braves fan, right? And Bobby Cox was the manager for years and years. And I know every time he called up somebody from the minor leagues, every time, the first game that they played in, that they were on the roster, they played in, they batted. And that was his way of showing you, I trust you enough. Not only are you going to be on the team, but I'm going to put you out there. You're going to have a chance to make an impact today. And I think that's a good way to look at our business. It's like you have to give people the chance to, show them that you trust them.
So yeah, that's right. Same with your employees. Yeah, 100%. I love that. That's a good, that's really cool. Atlanta Braves. That's really cool. I like that.
All right. So, these things are going to get just segue. You guys are just saying the right things. We're just going to so the next best way to not sabotage your business is over communicate everything. Okay. Communication is a big, big deal, and it affects how you talk, how you interact with your customers as well as your employees. It's probably, if I were going to say the one thing that you need to really, really, really get good at is communicating. Okay. If you're a poor communicator and you don't think you're going to get there, hire somebody that's a great communicator, because somebody's going to have to be able to do it. To me, this is probably a non-negotiable item in having a business, because you can be the best, roofer in the world, but if you can't communicate with your customer, because inherently there's going to be a problem, you're going to get a 1-star review when in fact maybe it was an issue that you were going to fix. It's part of the process. You just don't fix that till a week later because of whatever. I mean, I'm just making stuff up. But had you and I'll give you a real life example on this. So one of the big things when you go clean a house for the first time, if it hasn't been kept up professionally, is it's dusty. Because people clean, but people don't typically dust very well, and professionals dust. That's a big part of what you do. So when you start dusting of a house that hasn't been dusted in a while, the dust is going to get airborne, right? And so after you leave, the dust is going to settle again. So you try to dust 2 or 3 times. You use your vacuum to help you dust the really bad areas, but eventually you're going to leave and that dust is going to settle because it's up in the air. So we took a look and said, what is the number one complaint that we're getting? And it always happened on like first times and one times. The worst person to make mad, because that's the person who could become a recurring client and you've made them mad the first time. And it was like they just didn't do a very good job dusting. And we knew what it was. We knew it was because they did dust, but you had a stack of dust, all over the house, and we just couldn't get it all. As we were dusting, it went up, it became airborne. So we talked about response bid. So we're a responsive bid customer, and one of the things people tend to think of responsive bid as typically a sales platform, but responsive bid makes a great customer service platform, and the reason is because it knows when you did the job, okay? Because it scheduled the job. So I've got my responsive bid set up that when I close a job in my field service management software, which I use Jobber, and you close it, then it tells responsive bid job's closed, right? So it puts it in a different status. When a job goes into that status, it says, okay, that's the first time they've ever cleaned them. So it sends out an email and it says, dear Mr. Customer, thank you so much for letting us come clean your house. When we were cleaning your house, if it's possible that when we were dusting it, that the dust became airborne. If it did, it will probably settle, after we're gone. Now, just so you know, we dusted your house 2 or 3 times to make sure we got it, but this could still happen. If this bothers you, please let us know and we will come back and make sure that we clean it.
Wow.
If not, next time we come and clean your house, we'll dust it again, and that will probably take care of the problem. That went from our number one complaint to non-existent, simply because we over communicated. We told our customer, this is probably one of the things that can happen. If it does, this is how we'll take care of it. And it eliminated it. And it's automated. We don't even think about it. And you'd be surprised the number of people that respond to that email and say, thank you so much for following up. Yeah, I did see a little bit of dust. It's no big deal. You guys come and catch it in 2 weeks.
I love that. Yeah, it gets you more repeat business too, because it's also, hey, make sure you get us back out there.
Yeah, that's right. You do pick up some of those people. So when you start thinking about communication, we tend to think everything is as important to others as it is to us, right? So even, and I'm talking about even to the person that's sitting right next to you, not you guys, but next to me, right? That you think because you're telling them that they should grasp it all, because you would not tell them something unless it was so important, that you would take up your time to tell them. Well, realistically, it's probably not as important to them. And so you have to recognize that you may need to tell people more than once, and maybe in different ways, which is the second point here, which is that people get information differently. I want to talk a little bit about that. So during, part of the reason I think that we have been successful during the pandemic is that we started communicating with our customers before it really even became a big thing in the news. Okay. And we said, hey, look, we're learning about this as we're getting information. We are looking at the way, what's best practices, and we've implemented those things. And let me tell you what we're going to do when we come to your house. Okay. And we still had a lot of people leave us, but most of them came back, and they came back quickly. So it didn't kill us. So the way that we communicated that is we sent out an email. The email had everything that I just mentioned as bullet points, but we also had a video for every one of those. Okay. And so, because some people prefer to get their information face to face, and some people prefer to read about it. This was super important, and I needed them all to know about it. And so I put out both types of communication at the same time. Otherwise I probably would have done a video, then maybe followed up with another document or something, gave it to them 2 or 3 different ways, because there's value in spreading that out. But you need to recognize people get information differently. And so you want to make sure you communicate with people in different ways, so that hopefully you're going to find the way that they like to communicate. And if it's somebody like an employee, you may know that in the future. So for instance, if, a lot, and you see this a lot in the trades, and people will tell you, I don't like to read, right? It's like, if I like to read, I would have went to college. So just show me how to do it. And so you may make a lot of your training as far as like, they have to see it. They have to actually go experience it. So, but you may have somebody else, you go out and hire somebody to do your bookkeeping. I'll bet you they read. I mean, that's probably how they learned how to do it. So you have to be able to shift gears and make sure that you're communicating with people in the way that they get information. Okay.
I love that. We talk a lot about that, especially, because we like to do a lot of, follow up, make sure everything's going okay. And some people prefer a text, some people prefer a phone call, some people, you send them a video email. So it's so true of trying different ways and of communicating with your customers. And then especially in a business like yours, where your business is basically based a lot off repeat customers, to make a note, hey, this is how they prefer to communicate, and then tailor your communication to them in that way. I think that's so important. I love that.
And what we have found, which has been great for us, is that most people like to communicate over text. Right. So, and because, we deal with a lot of people who are busy, working, and they can handle a text while they're in a meeting. But sure. It had we called them, we would miss them. So we communicate probably 95% by text. And then, what that does though, is when you're able to do that, the person who wants to communicate by phone, you got time. You can spend all morning with them, because you're not getting a bunch of other phone calls. So that's really helpful.
Sure.
But it's important to realize that's for employees as well as customers. Okay. So, so think of it in terms of, for both of those, the employees and the customers. I'm going to move you guys because I see my eyes coming over here. And there we go. Okay. The next thing on how to not sabotage your business is you need to provide exceptional customer service. Okay. And when I say that, it's very easy to get sort of tainted in the service industry and say, this is just the way I do it. I'm bad about, this is the appointment that we have. Why would you move that customer? And Tamara, she's the opposite of, this is a great customer and we need to bend over backwards to make sure that we take care of them. And I just know for a fact their son's coming home from college and they would really like to have their house cleaned before he gets there. Okay. So who provided the best customer service there? She did. Right. So you really need to change your mindset of how you provide customer service to you need to provide exceptional customer service. This is sort of non-negotiable in the service businesses. And the nice thing is there's some things you can do to do that. Number one is you need to be easy to reach. If people can't pick up the phone and talk to you or text you or email you and get a response, you're not easy to reach. Okay. And you may think I am I can build a deck better than anybody in the 3 counties surrounding our house. You may be, but nobody's going to want to do business with you because they're not going to rave about you. They're not going to go online and say, man, this person is the absolute best deck builder, even though you are, because you're difficult to reach. So that's one of the reasons why, even though we may answer most of our phone calls today, if we miss your call, it rolls over to Jill's. And at the end of the day, at 5 o'clock, matter of fact, all of our calls go to Jill's. Now, we have the advantage that we're sitting in the Eastern time zone because that way you answer my calls until 9. Now that's great customer service. You can call me up at 8:30 at night and a person is going to answer your phone. Okay. So that's what I'm getting at. Be easy to reach. It's okay to call somebody back once, but you better call them back right now because you know what happens when they don't reach you? They call the next guy, whereas they probably would have stopped. Now we take that one step further, and it's really why I'm a huge fan of ResponsiBid. Is I don't even want you to have to call me for any reason. So you can go on our website, you can get a quote that's accurate, you can book your job, and then if you have any questions, you can text me and we'll text you back. And the nice thing about if you call me, there's one person going to pick up the phone probably, but if you text me, there's 3 of us that's going to take a look at that text. And one person's going to have the time to respond right now. So we come across as being very easy to reach and very responsive. And chances are we can do that 7 days a week most of the time. We don't encourage it. As a matter of fact, if you text in the evening, you're going to get an away message from us, but we've seen your text. And that gets back to a lot of people, as long as they know you got the message, they can probably wait until the next day, but they need to know you got it. Right. So trying to solve problems with one touch. This is actually something that I learned in the cable business. So we were getting just hammered. We were getting overwhelmed. And when you're in a growing business like that, like we were, because we weren't the incumbent cable company. We were the guy that everybody wants. We were the guy that went in and built a cable company on top of Comcast or whoever. So we were like the easy, we were the easy to do business with guys. And we were growing rapidly. We could not hire call center people fast enough to handle the calls. And the way that we ended up solving that is really drilling down and finding ways to solve the problems right then, one touch. So while you were on the phone with the CSR, they could fix most problems. Okay. And you'll see if you call a cable company today, they can do so much without sending a technician to your house. Matter of fact, they rarely do anymore. They can look at your modem speeds and everything just from their desktop. So that's how they solve that is they quit, having to send people out and they just solve it right then. And I think one of the fallacies in the service industries is we think, oh, I got to have a relationship with this guy. That's what's going to be the difference between me and the next guy is I'm a good guy. They're going to love me. And I'm going to take care of them. When they call me, I'm going to answer the phone and spend plenty of time with them. That's not really what they want. They want you to solve their problem. And if they can solve their problem themselves because of tools that you gave them, that's what they really want, most people. And the ones that don't want that, you have time to handle the way they want to be treated. Okay. So this gets to the next step, which is you need to empower your employees. Okay. And we see this a lot in the cleaning business where they've said one of the problems in the cleaning business, and it's probably in most trades, is we're going to go clean your house, but my definition of cleaning your house may be different than the customer's definition. They may think that includes something else. And you can be rigid about it, and you can say, nope, we only clean off this list. Or you can empower your employees to say, that's only going to take me 2 minutes to do. We'll just do it. And then they can take care of that customer. And that eliminated the problem. You didn't have to get involved. It's done. The only thing I will say is I'm okay to empower my employees, but they have to make good notes in our system so that the next person that goes out there can do the same level of service. Okay, so it's okay for you to make a promise as long as it's not too far out. It's going to take 10 minutes. That's cool, but you have to do whatever you need to do to make sure that we will do that no matter if you're there or not. Okay. And then lastly, and this is just sort of the catch-all, which is you need to truly be easy to do business with. Okay. What that means to your business, I don't know. But think about these things. How can I provide exceptional customer service? And think of it in terms of how can I truly be easy to do business with? I tend to always talk a lot about Amazon. There's a lot of bad things about Amazon. Amazon might even put Walmart out of business. I mean, those guys are just killing it. But you cannot tell me that Amazon is not easy to do business with. Amazon, you can return something for free and they will give you your money back, and they haven't even received it yet. Is that not easy to do business with? I mean, crap. Go to Walmart and you're going to stand in line just to return something. And then you might not get your money back. So
it's funny because that one thing, that was my biggest holdup with Amazon in the past is I would buy most things, but if it's something I might want to return, I wouldn't buy it. And once they changed that, it was more recent that they made that so easy.
Well, so you can
bring it. It's a game changer.
To Kohl's.
Yeah, bring it to Kohl's.
Yeah, that's right. Kohl's takes it all back. I mean, yeah. I'll give you another example. So right now, you're not shouldn't be out shopping, right? And I'll give myself a little tweak. I've lost a lot of weight. I've been on a diet, and I was going
to say something, Royce. You were looking really great.
I have lost 100 pounds.
Wow.
Guess what? You don't have clothes in your closet for 100 pounds.
Whew, good job.
So I had to buy clothes. Well, you don't want to buy clothes on Amazon, right? But you know what? Amazon sells Columbia shirts. They're nice shirts. They're the same exact shirt that you can go down and buy, at a store. And Amazon now will allow you to get the shirt, try it on, decide you want it before they'll even charge you. That's being easy to do business with. Okay, so I tend to use Amazon as my mark of how are we providing business compared to them. Okay, we're not going to be Amazon. I mean, for a lot of reasons, but that's what I'm trying to. That's the goal post I'm trying to reach. And if you do that, that's a pretty high standard. So that's not bad. The next thing I want to talk about is you got to calm down. Now, I really wanted to try to find a guy for my image there, and I couldn't find him. But I went with this lady because I just want to tell you guys, my hair looked just like that in the middle of the whole COVID stay-at-home thing. So until I realized that we actually had some hair trimmers and I could do it myself, that's exactly what I looked like. So you got to calm down. If you're anxious about stuff and you're being crazy at work, it's going to translate to your whole office, and then everybody's going to be crazy. If that's your personality, please let everybody go out into the field before you go into the office. You're doing everybody a favor, okay? And every time you try to pick up the phone to call somebody, slap your hand, because you're going to prevent them. You're sabotaging their ability to do their job well, all right? I'm going to go back to another baseball analogy. So when I was young, I wanted to be an umpire, a baseball umpire. And I lived in Atlanta, And I found this course I could take that was taught by real major league umpires. And these guys were brutal. I mean, they was the funnest group to be around. And I went and I took this class. And the one thing that they taught you that really stuck with me is you got to watch the whole play and then you make the call. And next time you watch a baseball game, hopefully it won't be too long from now, watch the first base umpire, because you're going to see the guy hit the ball. He's going to go past first base. He's going to be watching the first baseman and, and the guy's foot touch. You're going to go, man, just make the call. He was safe. And then he'll make the call. Okay. Same thing, balls and strikes. When they throw the ball, it hits the guy's glove, and there's a little bit of time there before he says strike or ball. Okay. So watch the whole play and then make the call, because what you're going to do is you're going to be able to make much better decisions if you have all the information. And then the next thing is, if you need a break, take one. These are tough jobs. Matter of fact, I will tell you, the last few months, I was telling some of our employees, I have brought in every little bit of experience I have, many, many years. And it still wasn't enough to help us make some of the decisions that we had to make during this. So chances are, if you've made it through this, you need a break. So try to take one, because you can't go to work and do a great job if you're stressed out. And then lastly, problems don't get better with time, typically. Okay. So I don't know very many that do. So if you have a problem, don't ignore it. You need to take care of it, and that will help, calm you down as well. All right. So just sort of summarizing everything here, I'm gonna give you some homework. Okay, here's the homework. It's not gonna be too hard, but try to learn something new this week. Okay, if it's about your business, great. If it's about something else, that's fine too. Just make it a point to learn something new every week. Next is delegate a task that you have always done yourself. Okay, so give somebody else an opportunity to grow. The next time you send a message to your employees, follow up in 2 other ways. Okay, so if you send them something, you tell them face to face. Then, a little while later, maybe, send them a text and then maybe even write it down, put it in their paycheck. Okay. I promise you, if you do that, there's going to be some of them that go, man, you're getting old and you're getting senile and you're, saying things 3 different ways. But they will get the message that you're trying to give them. The next thing is you need to take a hard look at how you treat your customers. Okay. And if you can't say that you're treating every one of them exceptionally, maybe they shouldn't be your customer. Okay. Because there's something there that's, preventing you from doing that. And then the last thing I would tell you is plan some downtime. Maybe you're not going to be able to take it for a while, but plan a trip, plan something so that you have to look forward to, because that just in itself helps me not be so stressed out. So, so that's my homework. Everybody should be able to do most of that. And I think overall that'll help you get on the right track. And, I wish you all success. And these are just a few things that I think help us be successful.
I love that. I love that you gave us homework. Thank you, Royce. Those are all amazing things. And I was going to ask you too, how can people learn more of, what all that you have taught and are teaching? So you have a Facebook group, the High Tech House Cleaner. We'll include that in the comments so you guys can check that out. And then on YouTube, should they just search your name, or how do they find you?
It's under the High Tech House Cleaner.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, it has not been super active in the last few months because it just wasn't the absolute most important thing for us. But I'm trying to build this group up so that, the great thing about a Facebook group is not what I add to it, but what the group adds. So please, I'd love to get as many people as we can to join this group so that we can all, I'm building the hive, so to speak.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Royce. This has been amazing. Everything you've given. Nicole and I both have taken several notes ourselves of things we're like, oh, we need to do better on that. So I really appreciate your time here and for everything you've offered. And I know everyone watching and that will watch this is going to love it as well. So thank you so much.
Well, this has been fun. So, like I said, another time let's talk about technology. But
No,
we
we're gonna have to get you
wove
back
a lot of it in there.
We'll get you back on for sure. Thank you so much, Royce.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks, Royce.